We're going to talk about Domino Volt. It's myself and Jared. We're going to tag team on this. I'm going to cover the product piece, and Jared's going to cover the business strategy, pricing, packaging, and we'll also detail some of the resources that we have. Okay. I was looking at the list of those on this call, and I know many are quite familiar with the product. There are some new names there. So I'm going on the assumption that not everybody has seen Volt, not everybody knows everything about Volt. So if you're an expert, please bear with me. So Volt is a low-code offering. And if you read the IT press or even the business press these days, you're going to see the term low-code. It's a hot item right now. And the reason is that analysts are saying that this market is going to be big. You know, Forrester's saying it's going to be 21 billion by 2022, and it's grown at a rate of 40%. The basic idea, instead of writing code, you've got a declarative method, you know, with point and click and drag and drop to build an application. Kind of sounds like Notes and Domino many, many years ago. Funny the way things kind of come back in fashion. Why do customers want low code? Well, they want low code because they want applications, more demand for applications in the business than IT has the capacity to deliver. So IT is turning to low code as a quicker way to satisfy the needs of business. Business is turning to low code as a way of doing it themselves. If the business can't really get a low code solution, what are they using? They're using spreadsheets, they're using paper, they're using manual processes. But you know, the need is there. People need applications more than ever. And low code is one of the promises that people are latching on to fulfill that need. So introducing HCL Domino Volt. This adds low code to your team's arsenal, whether you're in an IT team or a business team. And we've got data that says that you can build apps at least 70% faster than using traditional programming techniques. And one of the keys here is that this is powered by Domino. And I just love the presentation that Thomas gave. And the one thing I would add is that Domino is also an app server. So the code that, or the technology that we took over from Leap to the Domino platform is running on Domino. So Domino is doing what WebSphere did for Leap. And of course, it's got a database, it's got messaging, it's got security, and it's got all these other great services which we need as well. So it's like the ideal platform to bring the Leap technology over. And there's a lot more that we're going to do in this space, which I'll get to a little bit later. So the tool for the new user, you can come in and literally create an app in minutes. You can create from a blank canvas. You can bring a spreadsheet. You can bring in a template, an existing app that perhaps somebody is sharing with you, or perhaps a sample app that I'm going to share with you, and quickly get up and going. You design your app and customize it in this drag and drop canvas, and you've got other sort of settings that you can specify for things like workflow and roles. So, what are the different roles in this application? Who can first fill out the form? Who can approve the form? Where does it go after that? Who are the people in those roles? Can they read? Can they update the form in each one of those stages? All right, so there's role-based access control, which is kind of hand in glove with workflow, right? And then you've got this ability to look at views of the data. You can look at visualizations of the data. You can take the data and export it. You've got a REST API if you want to move it into another system and use it programmatically. And for the person that knows something about REST services and knows something about JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, boy, you can have a lot of fun. You can extend the functionality of the product. You can add new capabilities, new behaviors. You can access data from different sources, be it Domino, Salesforce, SAP, or any other enterprise source that you have. You can bring it in. This makes the application real sticky when you start connecting it to other data sources. But all that capability is there in the product. So you just scratch a little bit below the surface. And as a technical person, it's amazing what you can do. But enough of the talk. If you've been around me long enough, you know that I'm really more about the demo than the charts. So what I want to do is, let's just start simple. Let's create from a spreadsheet. So let's say that we've got this team that's offering education. You know, maybe they're doing sales enablement, and they've got all these different sort of courses on different dates with information about the courses, and they're all in a spreadsheet. Well, why not put that in a central source and then manage it like a true application? So by simply taking that spreadsheet and with a few clicks, I now have that application. Well, let's take a look at the course catalog. Here's the data. I can see each record in a form view. I can customize this. I can come down here and show it over on the right in the form view. So I can go through and I can easily update these, maybe add a new course, etc. So that's great, but there's more you could do. So let's say that what I want to do is add another piece of this application where what you can do is request to attend a course. Right? So I could come in here and I could simply just add another piece of this application. We'll just call this request. And then I can start building out my request here, and the request would talk to the catalog. Now, for the sake of time, we're kind of, you know, cramming a lot in here today, to use a descriptive word. So I'm not going to build that, but rather I'm going to show you what was built. All right. So here's the same app, and you can see in this app that, okay, here's the catalog that was created through the spreadsheet, and then here's a request app that I created. All right. So who are you? What course did you want to attend? And then it's got workflow in it. So there's a view that your managers are going to see. I've got some workflow stages set up so that when you submit it, it goes to this stage. A manager can then either approve or deny it. I've got the access set up so that when it's in each stage, I've got the appropriate access right. So there's a role called managers. Managers can read and update the form when it's in this stage. All right, so let's take a look at this and see how it works. So I'm going to launch the application, and we'll just pick a course. And it's getting information about that course. So this list of courses is coming from the catalog. It's also, if you sign up for a course, what it's going to do is send back, we added a field in the spreadsheet for how many people are registered. Would be nice to know if I'm at capacity. Maybe you don't want to let people sign up for the course if you're at capacity. Or things like, is travel required? If it is, I want to make the travel authorization number mandatory. If it's not, then I'm not going to ask. So this app, and some of you are going to be in some of the labs that are coming up. We build this app in the labs, all right? So there's a step-by-step on how to build this specific application. And there's also another version of this app where instead of getting a drop-down, well, maybe I can make my choices with a table. So it's the same app, it's just the selection process is a little different. Why might I want to use a table instead of the drop-down? Well, then I can sort, see what's by city or by date, or maybe I'm looking for a course to see when it's repeated, or it just gives me more information. All right, so this is another technique, and there's lots of techniques and patterns to learn in this product. It's really limitless in what you can do. It's up to your imagination. So that's training request, training with table. There's a few other things I want to show you. One is, many of our customers, be they in Europe or Asia or even North America, they have needs for multilingual applications. So what we have is an approach where what you can do is build an app. And you can pick this up automatically by detecting the browser's locale, or you can make it a manual option. And everything in the form is being translated. All right. Now, the way that you build this is you keep track of all your translated strings in a different place. So in this app here, I put in all my translated strings. So here's Spanish for last name. Here's English for last name. And there's one ID, and it's in every field in your app, and it's called custom attribute, which ties the two together. All right. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to flip over to this product called Notes, because I'm running on the way I'm set up here. I'm running on a Docker container, and I've got Notes connected to my Domino in the Docker container. And this really drives home the fact that Volt is Domino. I mean, as I build my apps, they're all here. These are all my apps, right? I can see all my attachments, everything about my apps is in there. So the Volt builder keeps track of all your work. When you deploy an app, it gets its own NSF. So this is the training request. Oh, here's the catalog, right? These are the people that signed up for education so far, all right? So each app is an NSF. It's a Domino app. You can open this up in Designer if you want to and do things like add agents, all right? Now there's another interesting database which you should probably look at, and it's called Volt Configuration. And if you're familiar with Leap, Leap had a file which you'd go edit, but in this case, what you can do is you can edit many of these options. And these have to do with things like, do you want to disallow certain file types? How many records can they see in the view? But one I want to draw your attention to is this secure.js. So by default, it's set to true. I turned it to off. Now the word secure is really a misnomer, because you need to think of it as do you have a scenario where you have unknown developers, or is it a trusted developer scenario? So if it's a trusted developer scenario like IT, well, then you probably want to enable full JavaScript to be used, because there's lots of useful things you can do with full JavaScript, such as maybe I want to call some external library and bring in a signature widget. You can do these things. Or perhaps I want to bring in a Google reCAPTCHA. You can do these things too. So you can extend the functionality by allowing full JavaScript in the product. All right? I'm happy to share all these different examples. And then I think I'm going to stop there with the demo. You know me, I can go on all day. And there is one chart here which I just snuck in, which is some highlights of what's coming. You need to understand that what shipped this week is just the beginning of an exciting story, and we're on a continuous delivery model. And the next release, which will be in months, some of the things that we're looking at, and at the top of the list there, direct access to Domino data. So we're going to provide a way that an administrator can catalog all the different Domino databases that you want to have access to. All right. So then when you go into the services, there'll be a new type in the catalog called existing Domino data. And it'll allow full create, read, update capabilities on those Domino views that are out there. All right. A way to, from the Volt designer, integrate Domino agents. The multilingual capability that I just showed you, that's being productized. Views as first-class citizens. Views today are flat. Domino can do categorized views and do them in the application. We're going to do that too. So there's some exciting things that are coming, but just wanted to tease you a little bit there. All right, let's talk about how to sell this. There's no getting around the fact that Volt is a solution sale. And having the install base that we have and the relationship we have with many of our customers, we're in a great position. So, from my perspective, what we want to do is work with our Domino champions, turn them into advocates, get them excited about the product, and then work with them to identify the pilot opportunities in their organizations, all right? And these will be in line of business. Once you've identified these pilot opportunities or these suspects, well, then the real work starts. You need to really spend the time to understand where they're using, why, what is the use case, how should it work, and then you need to build out the demo, right? Many sales have been made with Leap, the technology it's based on, by doing convincing proof of concept demos, and that really is one of the keys here, right? And I've got an example. It was Leap, and it was just recently in the last week, but it's the same sort of logic that applies. Reasons we won. We had a relationship. In this case, it wasn't a Domino Champion relationship, but rather an HCL Mode 1 relationship that we had. And the demo that was put together was very convincing. We knew the customer's problem. We put together a demo which was spot on with what they were trying to do. And the other thing that helped us clinch the deal was the price. All right. What's interesting is the customer had started already building this out with Mendex and found it too expensive. So somehow we managed to overturn that and come back in and win this. And it was an order management application at an organization called Sonico. All right. So lots of different use cases, lots of different industries. In some respect, the use cases are not a lot different than Domino. Do understand though that today you're looking at this idea of building forms and forms related workflow, which most workflow applications are. That's kind of the pattern that you want to go after. If it fits that pattern, there's a good chance that we can do it. Lots of examples that we've had from Leap customers, things like an oil and gas company is doing inspections on pipelines out in the field. We've got some healthcare scenarios, patient side check-in, ticketing issues, change requests, retail banking operations, lots of different examples. All right, so the conversation starters, what you want to do is spark up this conversation around building applications. Are you building applications on Domino? If not, why? Well, what if you didn't need any Domino specific skills? What if you could just leverage common web development skills or even less? Are there manual processes, or are people kind of suffering with this issue of mailing spreadsheets around to collect and track information? Are you running into roadblocks, perhaps with a SaaS solution? Maybe you're using a CRM system or SaaS solution, and you're not able to get the data you want out of it, or get the views of information that you want out of it. So you can leverage the API capability here and extend and provide added functionality to additional people with this product. I think of some of the things that we've done to put Leap as a front end on Dynamics to make the information dynamics much more useful to sellers, as an example. So there's a lot of different conversations that you can start to strike up. Of course, you want to get closer and closer to what is that possible application scenario that we can zero in on, right? And along the way, you're probably going to bump into a few people. You may go to the business and they may say, well, we're trying to do some things in Power Apps, or maybe Index or something else. So these are if you had me in an elevator, okay, what is it about Domino Volt that's different from these? Domino Volt is easy to learn. Right? It goes lower in the learning curve than these other products. I spent a lot of time with Microsoft Power Apps and some of the other products, and you start at a higher level on the mountain, and the mountain is pretty high. So you've an easy way to come into Domino Volt. Of course, there's advanced things that you can learn in Domino Volt, but that's all upside if you choose to learn them. All right. Another thing is different is around the actual database. You start creating an application in Domino Volt. Domino Volt takes care of your database, the schema, the everything. You don't have to worry about that. What's the first thing you have to do when you go into Power Apps? You've got to define your data source. Well, what can be a data source? Well, maybe it's a spreadsheet on a OneDrive. Maybe it's a SharePoint list. What's the security on that OneDrive? What's the security on that SharePoint list? That's different from my application. It's not defined in my application. Do I have control over the security on that? And it's the same approach with the other systems. They look at the world from the perspective of we're building an application and where the data lives, well, that's a different story and up to you. We store the data, we manage it, we secure it, everything. It's just all nice and concise in one place. We're going after Domino customers. They have an investment in a Domino infrastructure. They also have an investment in data and agents. We get to leverage that, right? That's one of the biggest. And then the final, differentiator I have here is we're priced for rapid adoption, as you're going to hear shortly in this presentation. We're not going to charge you based on how many agents you put out there. We're going to give you no price and encourage you to build as many applications as you can for all your use. Really the strategy. The commonly asked questions, and I'll just run through these really quickly. We talked about the database Domino Volt. It's all in an NSF. How do we import data from a Domino database? Well, in the initial release, you do that through REST APIs and the Domino Access Services. In the next release, that's going to be, drop dead simple. It's going to be, just direct connections, and you pick the views that you want. Does this replace Domino Designer? Absolutely not. There's a whole class of applications that this can do well, and there's a lot of other things that Domino Designer does well. So there's a need for both of these things. Can I modify existing Domino apps with Domino Volt? That's not the focus. The focus here is creating new Volt apps, and I can modify Volt apps with Domino Designer going the other way around them. Does Domino Volt support anonymous usage? Not yet, so that'll be in the next release. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jared.
Thanks, Marty. So I'll take you through the overall business strategy and then the pricing and packaging for Volt for this session. So next slide, Marty. So the overall HCL Domino Volt strategy for our 1.0 product is fourfold. So first and foremost, it's really to drive new revenue and SNS to the Domino portfolio, right? We have that installed base of 15,000 customers that we really want to tap into with this new product, and especially around that long tail of not only large customers, but those smaller customers as well. We, of course, want to increase the number of Domino customers building new applications, get this in the hands of as many customers as possible, and we price that accordingly, and as well as increase the number of users in an organization building new applications. So not just our admins and developers, but starting to move into line of business as well, getting it in the hands of non-technical users who can build applications to support their line of business. And then finally, transition customers on their current licenses over to complete collaboration bundle or the bundle mail and social collaboration as part of Domino's broader strategy to move those customers over to these strategic parts. Next slide, Marty. So we have some objection handling that we kind of put down as common questions that we get. So I want to, before I dive into the business strategy further, just answer some of these questions. So one of the ones we get quite a bit is, why isn't Domino free? And so we went back and evaluated this. We looked at the competition, we looked at our own capabilities and what we're providing, and the bottom line is we're adding a significant amount of value to Domino as well as to our customers with HCL Domino Volt. And we are going to continue to improve the product on a quarterly basis, and we've really priced it in a way that, as you'll see, is really meant for widespread adoption. The goal here was to really make it a no-brainer for customers, and allow them to build applications really at a fraction of the price of competitive solutions, which you'll see. It is only on v11, 11.0.1, and we are leveraging, technology that only exists there, and we'll continue to leverage the newest Domino capabilities. I mentioned regarding CCB and the bundle mail and social collaboration, that is the strategic focus for Domino. With that, we do get a question about how that affects what customers are paying. As you'll see, when we do transition customers over to CCB, if they're not already on, or bundle mail and social, they'll continue to pay their last paid price plus the standard uplift HCL charges. And then finally, we'll get into this in the pricing and packaging, but I know some of you have asked why customers need to purchase the equivalent number of Domino Volt licenses as CCB or BSM. Like email, we believe HCL Domino Volt is really for everyone in the organization, not just the developers or IT. It's for line of business. It's for everyone in the organization. So we've created that in order to allow everyone to build applications. All right, so getting into pricing and packaging. So really quickly, just some prereqs and some general information on pricing. So as I mentioned, 11.0 is required to run. Domino Volt is a separate part number available for purchase on a per user basis. So we offer term and perpetual. Term is our preferred method, but we know a lot of customers are on perpetual, but that's really only if requested by customer. As I mentioned, you have to buy the equivalent number of Volt licenses as CCB or BSM. So if they have 200 CCB, they would purchase 200 Domino Volt licenses. It can be purchased at time of renewal or outside of renewal. And immediately we're allowing customers to purchase on CCB or bundle mail and social, but all those other authorized parts, as well as Enterprise Cal, we have a transition, a set of charts for transitioning customers over. So next slide, Marty. So I won't get into this, but this goes through basically when you get these slides, what you can add Volt to immediately, what you can add with a sales conversion, and what you can't add to Domino Volt. And maybe I'll just touch on what you can't add, which is a Domino utility server or a messaging server, Messaging Express. So next slide, Marty. Here are the part numbers, just for your edification on the term licenses as well as the perpetual. We really do want to move customers to term, but of course, if customers really require perpetual, as some of our customers do, we also offer that as well. Next slide. Okay, so now getting into the meat of the actual packaging and pricing. So if you are an existing customer, right, which is a majority of our customers, obviously, how are you going to purchase HCL Domino Volt on CCB, term, or perpetual? Okay, so we basically made this very simple for existing customers, dependent either if you're on term or perpetual, right? So basically what it's broken down to, as I said before, it's dependent on the number of CCB licenses that you have, and you purchase the equivalent number. And it's broken down into whether you own 1 to 200 CCB licenses, or bundle mail and social collaboration licenses, or over 201. So the way it works is if you're under 200, basically all we're saying is what you're paying for CCB, your last paid price, take that, apply 10% to that price, and that's what HCL Domino Volt is. If you're over 201 licenses, it's 6%. So we're talking about a very small increment to what they're currently paying in order to get HCL Domino Volt. And you can see a couple customer examples that we've provided there for the term, right, around license quantity. So if they're paying $4,500 a year for 50 licenses, they pay $450 for Volt, and their total is $4,950. And similarly with perpetual licenses, we're doing the same thing and applying it to what they're paying on SNS. So if their license quantity is 50 again, and they're paying that $82 on a perpetual SNS license, we're again applying that 10% to get them $409.50 and bringing the total to $4,500. So really dead simple, depending on the license quantity, applying a 10 or 6% uplift based off of that to get you HCL Domino Volt. In the back of this deck, which we'll send, you'll have all the part numbers that are referenced here and on the previous slide, so we know exactly what to add to the catalog. So next slide, Marty. So now transitioning over to new customers. So we talked about existing customers in the last slide. This is for net new customers, and we've provided them for term or perpetual as well. So for new customers, it's very straightforward. So we have the same license tiers, so 1 to 200 or 201 or more. We have the Domino pricing SRP. So if a customer is looking obviously to purchase Domino and HCL Domino Volt, we have those simple prices. So it starts at $1 per user per month for 1 to 200, and it goes to 75 cents for 200 plus. And then you see the combination of Domino and HCL Domino Volt. And for perpetual, it follows the same standard for perpetual licenses on CCB. You see your SRP for Domino, what the Domino Volt price is, and what the combined Domino and HCL Domino Volt prices are for new customers. Next slide, Marty. Okay, so getting into the resources that you have available to you, we have a host of resources that marketing and sales and product management has put together for you. I think, Marty, what we can do is we'll take these links for everybody. We'll post them in the chat here in the GoToMeeting, as well as the Teams chat, so everyone has that. The main things that you need to know is we have a webcast coming up on April 16th. Please join us for that. We have registered now over 700 participants who are planning on coming to that. We have the overview sales deck, the sales enablement deck. We have the feature sheet, a 4-minute demo, plenty of documentation and tutorials, as well as the internal FAQ guide where you can ask your questions, and we'll get those answers to you as soon as possible. Next slide, Marty. And then continuing on the resources, marketing helped us launch a new website. You have the logo kit for download to use in your presentations. And our call to action for you today is really to help us share the webcast and share the launch on social media with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. So with that, I think the last slide is our contact information. Again, I will make sure you guys get the links to all of those resources, and then Marty and I will be hyper vigilant about your FAQ questions and get those answers to you as soon as possible. So with that, thank you.
Yeah, nice job. Yeah, nice job. So Luis, I don't know if you were going to mention that there's going to be some other sessions where people are going to be able to get hold of a Docker container with this, Luis?
Yes, so next week for the TAs in the room, as you guys know, next week we're doing a 3-hour hands-on lab. And we want to make sure that every single technical advisor is capable of, going through the trainings, capable of developing new apps. And on top of that, we're going to do a couple of launch and learn sessions where Marty and a few others are going to share like tips and best practices. So if you're a TA, please make sure that you attend that session on Tuesday next week. So Andrew, there are a couple of questions in the chat, and I don't know if you want to, read out loud some of them.
No, I think I've been working through catching up with most of them. I think I've left deliberately some of them open because they're really sort of Marty type questions, and Marty and Jared are good, but presenting and answering questions at the same time, I'm not sure they could do that. But just give them some time, and I know they'll go through and answer some of those questions. I was trying to answer some of them in the background. The one I would there's two other things I wanted to comment on. We're actually going to be working on a proof of concept soon to augment the amount of middleware that we can have integrated with Volt. So it will enable us to get to other SaaS properties, other enterprise applications which are not necessarily REST API or SaaS properties. It will also enable us to get to databases. So there's more for that coming, but we'll let you know this quarter how we're sort of rolling that out. There was a question about Leap and Volt at the same time. There's some around the browser, but I'll let Marty actually refer to that. I just want to make it clear is that Leap is still a valid product, is still supported, but our strategic direction is Volt. And at some point in time down the road, we'll have feature parity between the Leap capabilities into Volt. But remember, Volt is always going to be a superset, is always going to have more capabilities than, by the very nature than Volt is, than Leap can actually provide. So I just want people to remember that. And moving further forward, the intent is to provide the combination of Volt and Domino as a Docker container to make this really transparent for our customers as well. Marty, were there you've got a couple of minutes. You've got 6 minutes if you want to call any questions out you want to answer on the fly here.
If you could read them to me, I don't have that list in front of me.
Okay, I'm just diving into here. I remember seeing one about mobile support for Volt.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mobile support. Today we are really good at creating a mobile-friendly web application. We're working through the strategy on how we do a full and proper mobile client with offline, security and sync and reading barcodes and all that fun stuff. Not there yet, so not in the next release, but hopefully soon we have something to say on that.
Okay, I'm going to reply to, I think Michael Green was asking the question about HEI. The intent is to make both HEI and SAP Connector an entitlement of Domino Volt. So if we've got customers today who are using those products, without Volt, they can continue to pay maintenance for those products and get the latest versions. I mean, certainly upgrade to HEI today. And when SAP Connector comes out this quarter, they can also upgrade to that. However, one of the things we're doing is including in the Volt entitlement to both of those capabilities. So one of the things we're trying to encourage people to do is have customers try to add Volt to their license, and they'll get the entitlement for both of those pieces of middleware. And one of the things you probably inferred from what Marty was saying is we want to make it super easy to leverage that middleware within your Volt application. And I think you've seen some of the first seeds of that with the Word document that Marty went through. I'm looking for another question. Oh, okay.
We've got one, Andrew, here about when Volt will be available on FlexNet, and we can't find it at the moment.
Yep, so I can take that. So we're working with the FlexNet team to triage that issue. Everything uploaded by GA, so we're wondering what's happening on the FlexNet side. So as soon as I know, I'm talking with Leanne right now, as soon as I can get you an answer to that and we resolve that, I'll send a note out to the team.
Great, thank you.
Hey, there is another question around from Matthias around like, for example, Volt integration with connections, like again, community surveys. So I'm gonna put a little bit of flavor on, you know, are we looking into how Volt apps could down the road be like a key part of connections and even DX, for example?
That's exactly what we're looking at. I think there's two parts to the question, which is the first part is we have no plans to renew the survey capability of connections, which used FEB, the predecessor to Leap. But absolutely, we see a very bright opportunity for the concept around tailored experiences, not only to customize the community that people have within inside connections, but also the ability to add a number of Volt applications at the same time. And to that point, Marty, you may want to talk about the POC that you did with Stefano Pogliani, because I think that's a good example of, you know, the art of the possible.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of hits on the point that Volt is really good at interacting with REST APIs, and there are a lot of REST APIs with connections. And we did a proof of concept where notifications and communications were all going through connections. So that was, you know, if you will, kind of the intranet for employees, and that's where they get notified about things that were happening in Volt, at least with this proof of concept. And we also embedded Volt applications directly into, you know, the chat sessions and in the pages in connections. So there's a lot of integration that you can do today, but you know, there's always opportunity for more, and we're looking at that.